Lee Summit is your destination for big city vibes and small town charm.
Head to the downtown Lee Summit Farmers Market, where local meets fresh. Then grab a cup of coffee and discover a variety of shops and boutiques just around the corner. Continue the fun in downtown Lee Summit at a retro arcade bar. Discover your new beer at one of our 6 locally owned breweries. Cool off with some handcrafted cocktails at happy hour. End the night with live music and good company. Lee Summit, Missouri.
Hello, Lee Summit. I'm Jordan. Here's your flash briefing for the week of July 14th. City Council will meet for a regular session Tuesday night at 6 in Council Chambers in City Hall. Meetings are open to the public or watch live on the city's YouTube channel. If you can't watch, catch the recorded meeting on demand on the YouTube channel or by subscribing to the Council Debrief newsletter, which breaks down 3 to 4 key agenda items. Subscribe at cityofls.net. The countdown is on for the grand opening of Green Street, August 15th through 17th. Everyone is invited to celebrate the ribbon cutting and opening of this bold, vibrant gathering space. Green Street will be home to the indoor farmers market, live music, local art, open air performances, and extraordinary events in a dynamic indoor-outdoor setting. Grand opening weekend will be packed with live entertainment, food trucks, kids activities, live music, the Saturday farmers market, and more. Come be a part of it. Learn more at greenstreetls.com. Celebrate the 150th anniversary of the Lee Summit Fire Department at a fun-filled open house on July 19th from 9 a.m. to noon at Fire Station Number 4, located at 5031 Northeast Lakewood Way. Bring the whole family to tour the fire station and walk through an inflatable house to learn about fire safety. Don't miss this opportunity to honor their legacy and join the celebration. And Jamaican Jam is back at Legacy Park Amphitheater on July 18th at 7 p.m. Enjoy the tunes of the islands for free without leaving Lee Summit. Find more details at rocktheamp.net. Thanks for listening and have a great week.
This is the best place to work.
I love working here.
I feel very blessed.
I love it here.
I look forward to coming to work every day, being a part of this team.
Like a family away from home.
Where everyone feels like everybody knows their name.
A city that supports you. We see that with our benefits.
A pension, vacation days, job security.
Being able to be heard.
We feel valued, we feel respected.
Lee Summit is a very progressive city.
It's growing, it's thriving.
We have this drive towards not just doing a job, but doing it with a spirit of excellence.
I had the opportunity to continue to grow, regardless of 30 plus years doing this kind of work.
It's more than just dollars and cents.
We're here really to give back,
Providing a service to better a community,
to go out and serve people.
to be a part of something bigger than yourself. If I would have known what I know now, years ago, I would have been here much sooner.
Member Pryor.
Thank you, Mayor. Quite a few of us are getting questions. I know I've gotten a few questions about the plan, so I didn't know if, just for the public knowledge. I'm not a politician. I feel like I'm just an average person in Lee Summit. They have a football field set up. Inside these cones are their football fields. Our two-car garage is we're gonna bring the driveway back through here, and it's gonna go right here. And then, so my family has chickens. When we first got chickens, my husband said, don't treat them as your pets, treat them as chickens, because we're going to be eating the eggs, and I would like to use them for meat. So don't treat them as your pets. Well, we now have 6 chickens that I consider my pets, and I will not let him kill for meat. So we live downtown, and we love living downtown. These are my children. The first one's Lincoln, and Amira, and Sophia, and Caleb. This is a great neighborhood. Downtown is one big community, and all of the kids get together and they play basketball, and we like to walk to the farmer's market. Here, hold my hand. It's an easy walk, probably less than 10 minutes. The farmer's market has always been a very important part of my life and my family's life. As a matter of fact, when my daughter started kindergarten, I dropped her off and I was going shopping at the farmer's market right behind Lee Summit Elementary. And I was teary-eyed because she was my first and she was going off to kindergarten. And Terry, the butterfly lady, the one that's in the purple shirt, and she used to make little butterfly stickers for everyone, she gave me a big hug and was just so empathetic to the fact that my daughter had just started school. How are you guys doing? Doing well, how are you? Yeah, very good. A lot of the farmers there, they've watched my kids grow up. I love Lee Summit in general. I love that it still has a small town feel while embracing growth and the arts and diversity. And I feel like downtown specifically embodies that. My kids go to Lee Summit Elementary, and a lot of their teachers live downtown, and a lot of the business owners from downtown live downtown. So when we're out walking downtown, we see so many people we know. I lived in Africa until I was 5, and then we moved to the United States, and I've lived in Lee Summit since. A lot of my childhood, my mom was a single mom, and I feel like I was essentially raised by my community and being on council, and it's just such an important way to give back to the community that raised me.
I state your name.
I, Mia Pryor,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I possess the qualifications
this day of April 2022. The election process was fun. I got to go door to door and talk to people, which is my absolute favorite thing to do, is talking to people and learning about people. I even had people inviting me into their house for dinner or inviting me back to their house to meet their spouse. And I knocked on a door, and the lady that answered the door was my kindergarten teacher. So it was a lot of fun. Is it on? Hi everyone, I'm Councilmember Mia Pryor. Thank you very much for coming tonight. I have one on, can you not? Okay. Maybe I went. I love being a council rep for District 1. I know everyone says this, but District 1 is by far, in my opinion, the best district. Raintree Lake, that's part of District 1. I love that community. Actually, my husband and I got married at the clubhouse in Raintree Lake. I really love all of South Lee Summit. I love the growth that they're going to be experiencing soon and that they've already experienced. I wanted to say that if you guys have a concern, please come tell us what your concern is, because we can only address and help with what we know. We're there to kind of bridge that gap between constituents in the city, and we're the voice of our constituents, and we can go to the city and voice what their concerns are, what their ideas are. So if you have a concern, definitely make us aware. So my big priorities are public safety. That's always one of my top priorities. I've always wanted to make sure that first responders were supported. I think that that's super important to me, and to many in our city. But also, I wanted to influence the growth in Lee Summit. I wanted to influence the type of businesses we get here and the type of activities there are to do for our families. If we're going to continue to grow downtown, how important it is to focus on people that already live here and the infrastructure we already have in place.
Our first presentation tonight is going to be Assistant City Manager Ryan Elam, who's going to talk about that very exciting Farmers Market Plaza.
But I want to show you the most recent rendering, fly-through video of that. That's really the best way to kind of get a good sense of what this will look like in the near future.
To see it developing into something as big as it's going to be across from City Hall is super exciting to me. I can't wait for it to get built and to start welcoming people into what the farmers market's going to be, but also everything else that goes along with that development.
Okay.
You want to hold it? Don't drop it.
Perfect. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.
Have a good rest.
I'm just an average person in Lee Summit that wanted to be a voice of many that sometimes feel like they don't have a voice. Yeah, I'm not a politician. I'm just a mom that cares. Order the Public Works Committee meeting Monday, July 14th, 2025, please. May I please get a roll call?
Chair Pryor.
Here.
Vice Chair Rader. Present. Councilmember Carlisle.
Present.
Councilmember Hodges.
Here.
May I please get an approval of the agenda, please?
Chair, I move for the approval of the agenda.
Second.
Thank you. May I please get a roll call?
Chair Pryor.
Aye.
Vice Chair Rader.
Aye.
Councilmember Carlisle.
Aye.
Councilmember Hodges.
Aye.
Sorry. And it looks like we have one public comment. Nick Telowitz.
Correct. Yes.
Do you want to come to one of the microphones?
Oh, sure. You want me to go first?
Thank you.
My name is Nick Telowitz. I reside at, this is my turn to speak for 3 minutes? Okay. I reside at 2789 Southwest Peterson Road. And I sent a letter in to Mr. Park and Mr. Proudfit and copied the city traffic engineer regarding the prior road closure and traffic flow and its effects on neighboring road, particularly the one I live on, Peterson Road. So I had some questions, and the closing of three north-south roads within a 2.5 mile distance has put a lot of pressure on Peterson Road, and I realize one of those closures is not in this jurisdiction. It's Raytown Road, but I'm assuming that there was some coordinating communication between the municipalities about what coincidental closures would do to traffic flow. And Peterson Road is an unimproved street because it's by definition too narrow to be a 2-lane road. There's no center stripe, it has no shoulder, and has no lighting. And so my concern was mainly what's the schedule and scope of improvements planned for Peterson Road because of the deterioration it's receiving at this time. Is Lee's Summit doing anything to pressure anything with the city of Kansas City on opening up Raytown Road, because there presently is no work being done to replace that bridge that has caused the closure of Raytown Road. So it's really from a public safety standpoint and from a concern about the condition of Peterson Road, and also I guess the portion of 137th Street that is in the city limits of Lee's Summit. Would hope that there'd be some plan for improvements to that road, which I was not able to find on the agendas for road work, although it was very lengthy. I'm not sure I pursued and found every possible project planned, but that was my public comment. So they said I wrote a letter and they signed a service request number 169039. And they said someone would be in touch. I haven't heard anything, so I just thought I would come to this meeting and express my concerns in person. So I don't know if Mr. Park is here or if anybody else has heard from Mr. Proudfit. And so that's my comment.
So Mr. Park is here, and I believe he has responded to this request, so I'm sure he'll be in communication with you.
Okay.
At some point.
All right, and who's Mr. Park?
Yeah, so our staff has investigated, and we will be in contact as we address the service request.
All right, you're Mr. Park?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. All right, thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time. All right, first item of business is the approval of the June 8th, 2025 Public Works Committee action letter.
Chair, I move for the approval of the June 8th, 2025 Public Works Committee action letter.
Second.
May I please get a roll call?
Chair Pryor.
Aye.
Vice Chair Rader.
Aye.
Councilmember Carlisle.
Aye.
Councilmember Hodges.
Aye.
Thank you. Next item is Bill number 25-133, an ordinance approving award of RFQ 2025-054 to Walter P. Moore and Associates, Inc., and to Wilson and Company, Inc. for on-call professional engineering services for transportation, stormwater, and structural design and engineering studies, and authorizing the city manager to execute individual agreements of the same for a period of 1 year with 4 possible 1-year renewal options. Ms. Quackenbush?
Good evening, Karen Quackenbush, Senior Staff Engineer. The agreement before you today would allow any city department to utilize Walter P. Moore or Wilson and Company in on-call services. These services could benefit any city department. We issued an RFQ, request for qualifications, on March 6th of 2025 and received 20 submittals from different firms. Myself and 5 other staff within Public Works reviewed each submittal. We met and discussed their qualifications and we ranked them. We found Walter P. Moore and Wilson and Company to be the 2 most qualified firms. So then we proceeded to negotiate the terms of the agreement, and that is the agreement before you today. The city utilizes other professional firms to do different services for us. We have on-call surveying, on-call geotech, some on-call services for environmental, to name a few. And so this would be very similar to those. And as it states, we can renew up to 4 times on a yearly basis. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions? Councilmember Rader?
Thank you, Chair. So is this the first time that we have used Walter P. Moore and Wilson Company?
As an on-call, yes, ma'am.
Oh, but did we use?
We have worked with both firms on other CIP projects.
Okay, and are they associated with any of the other ordinances that are before us today?
No, ma'am.
No?
They are not.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Any additional questions? May I please get a motion to forward to council for approval, please?
Chair. I move for full council approval Bill number 25-133, an ordinance approving award of RFQ 2025-054 to Walter P. Moore and Associates Incorporated and to Wilson and Company Incorporated for on-call professional engineering services for transportation, stormwater, and structural design and engineering studies, and authorizing the city manager to execute individual agreements of the same for a period of 1 year with 4 possible 1-year renewal options.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. May I please get a roll call?
Chair Pryor.
Aye.
Vice Chair Rader.
Aye.
Councilmember Carlisle.
Aye.
Councilmember Hodges.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next item C, Bill number 25-134, an ordinance authorizing the execution of a surface transportation block grant program funding agreement between the City of Lee Summit, Missouri and Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission related to the public improvement project designated as Federal Project Number STBG 3338406, Lakewood Way Complete Street Improvements, Woods Chapel Road to Bowlin Road within the city limits of Lee Summit, Missouri, and authorizing the mayor to execute the same.
Hi, Dave Lowe, Engineering Manager. Nakia was listed on here, but she couldn't attend. She had other things to take care of. So as you read there, we are planning a improvement project between Lakewood Way, between Bowlin Road and Woods Chapel. And this is to improve safety, traffic operations, accessibility, provide multimodal transportation options, and rehabilitate existing pavements there. MoDOT has approved the city's submittal for surface transportation block grant, federal funding, and that amount is $1,190,000. So this is an agreement that must be taken up with MoDOT in order to accept those funds. So any other questions?
Thank you. Any questions? Councilmember Rader?
Thanks, Chair. Okay, so, Mr. Lowe, you said that we're waiting on MoDOT for the 1.19 million, or
No,
we haven't?
The money has been set aside, and it's just we have to have this agreement with them before we can
move forward? Okay, so when do you think you'll start this project then?
This is one we have not selected, sat down and really selected the engineer to have a start date or anything on yet, but so we'll probably start in the next few months on that.
Okay.
No definite time at this point.
No definite time? Okay, thank you. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Any other questions? May I please get a motion to forward to council for approval?
Chair, I would make a motion to move forward to council for approval bill number 25-134, an ordinance authorizing the execution of a service transportation block grant program funding agreement between the City of Lee Summit, Missouri and the Missouri Highways Department Commission related to the public improvement project designated as Federal Project Number STBG 3338-406, Lakewood Way, complete street improvements, Woods Chapel Road to Bowlin Road within the city limits of Lee Summit, Missouri, and authorizing the mayor to execute the same.
Second.
May I please get a roll call?
Chair Pryor.
Aye.
Vice Chair Rader.
Aye.
Councilmember Carlisle.
Aye.
Councilmember Hodges.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next, bill number 25-135, an ordinance approving a transportation alternatives program agreement between the City of Lee Summit, Missouri and the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission related to the public improvement project designated as Federal Project Number TAP 3448402, Southeast Douglas Street, Blue Parkway to 4th Street, within the city limits of Lee Summit, Missouri, and authorizing the mayor to execute the same.
Hi, Craig Kohler, Senior Staff Engineer. So the city submitted Southeast Douglas from Blue Parkway to 4th Street for this TAP funding, which is a federal funding that will be used in the fiscal year, or has to be used by, or start by fiscal year of 2027. Project scored really well because of the safety improvements, the addition of multi-modal elements, and the proximity to downtown and the school and everything out there. Basically, we have to enter into this agreement to get the funds, just like the last one. So if you got any questions, let me know.
Any questions? I'm not seeing any. May I please get a motion?
Chair, I recommend to full City Council Bill number 25-135, an ordinance approving a transportation alternatives program agreement between the City of Lee Summit, Missouri and the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission related to the public improvement project designated as Federal Project Number TAP 3448402, Southeast Douglas Street, Blue Parkway to 4th Street within the city limits of Lee Summit, Missouri, and authorizing the mayor to execute the same.
Second. Sorry, Trish.
Okay. I have a motion and a second. May I please get a roll call?
Chair Pryor.
Aye.
Vice Chair Rader.
Aye.
Councilmember Carlisle.
Aye.
Councilmember Hodges.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes. Next on the agenda is bill number 25-136, an ordinance approving a transportation alternatives program funding supplemental agreement between the City of Lee Summit, Missouri and the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission related to the public improvement project designated as Federal Project Number TAP-3001015, Ward Road improvements from Blue Parkway to O'Brien Road within the city limits of Lee Summit, Missouri, and authorizing the mayor to execute the same.
Good evening, Scott Eason, Senior Staff Engineer. I just want to clarify one point on a question. Walter P. Moore is the engineer of record on this project. During Mrs. Quackenbush's presentation, there was a question in regards to that. Is that clear? Okay, all right. Basically, the request is just between the city and MoDOT to extend the schedule a year. Basically, the project will be let no later than January 15th at 26. So that's more or less, and it requires an ordinance to extend this schedule.
Okay, thank you. Do I have any questions? May I please get a motion?
Chair, I recommend to full City Council Bill number 25-136, an ordinance approving a transportation alternatives program funding supplemental agreement between the City of Lee Summit, Missouri and the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission related to the public improvement project designated as Federal Project Number TAP-3001015, Ward Road improvements from Blue Parkway to O'Brien Road within the city limits of Lee Summit, Missouri, and authorizing the mayor to execute the same.
Second.
May I please get a roll call?
Chair Pryor.
Aye.
Vice Chair Rader.
Aye.
Councilmember Carlisle.
Aye.
Councilmember Hodges.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next on the agenda, item F, 2025-7022, discussion, stormwater utility discussion, July 2025. Mr. Binger?
Okay, good evening. George Binger, City Engineer. This is a continuation of our conversations regarding the idea of a stormwater utility or dedicated funding for stormwater services within the city. And so with this presentation, we're going to dive a little bit into more of some of the potential funding scenarios. So we've kind of summarized what we've discussed or what we think we've agreed on up to this day's level of service would be adding 2 additional crews. In the operations division, adding the ability to do small capital projects, and this is generally that $500,000 range is what we're talking about, and then the support staff for regulatory compliance, engineering, and any administration in regards to the stormwater services. So there's 3 basic options available to us as a city. There's the property tax option, a sales tax option, and then a user fee that's based on impervious area. Commonly, the term stormwater utility refers to that user fee, but there's some cities that have a sales tax, like Independence and our own Missouri have a sales tax dedicated for stormwater, and the state of Missouri has actually authorized communities to adopt a parks and stormwater sales tax. And in other areas, that it's actually part of the property tax bill, or it is the utility that is billed once a year on the tax bill. So we'll kind of get some of those caveats and discussions later. So really what we're looking for this evening is, if you think you're comfortable making a decision, and we can make that tonight. If you're looking for a deeper dive into some of these options or scenarios, we can do that later. So again, the problem we're trying to solve for is, the infrastructure here, the corrugated metal pipe, just the number of structures and basins and things of that nature, and then so with the manage the level service. So what that comes up now, this is the eye chart that shows all the granular details. This is how we came up with that number we were talking about. Now this is in 2023 dollars of all the different activities. So you see their system maintenance. We looked at salaries, benefits, materials, and we kind of looked at, from day one, we're not going to be fully up and running. So we'll have to ramp this up over a period of time. And so that's where you'll see kind of some of the numbers will increase, like from 27 to 28, because that's when we think we'd go from that 1 additional crew to 2nd crew. Then our water quality compliance, the planning, engineering, and going down the list. Now, one thing that we talk about the idea of a utility. Now, if you want to, I'm going to move ahead of this unless you have specific questions here, because I know again there's a lot of numbers here. One of the things that and then we also look at adding the capital. And so this is part of what we're talking about. So that's what we're talking about, like that $500,000 a year. And so there's, in this fee we're talking about includes that startup cost for the additional equipment and things of that nature. Now, one thing that is not included in some of these is, if you look down here under the program administration, is if we go with the monthly billing system, that is a significant administrative effort. And then there's a lot of policy decisions that have to come into play as far as, billing, non-payment of bills, how the city wants to do that, maintaining the customer list. And so there's some extensive overhead of that, and we can discuss that a little bit later is when we get into that scenario. Okay, so again, this is what we're looking at, the $6.1 million, that's adding 2 crews and adding about that $500,000 for capital and the other administrative support. So again, it's kind of, I talked about the 3 main sources or strategies we see here. And it doesn't have to be a single strategy. It could be a combination of strategies if we wanted to go down that road. So again, we're looking at the idea of the, it's some sort of dedicated revenue is the main thing we're looking for. So then if we look at a stormwater tax, if we look at the property tax, kind of the bottom line is it's adding about 22 cents per $100 of assessed valuation. Again, that equates to about $150 per home for the median home. The $350,000 is a median home, and I'll have that information in more detail. Sales tax, again, we talked about a 1/4 cent sales tax. We have the option, there's that 1/8, and we talked about the parks. We want to make sure they've indicated they want to have some left over in that for future capital. So that's why we're saying there's an 8 cent would be available in that option. Okay, so looking at some of the different implications, let's start on the left side. How concerned are we about this nexus between stormwater, the revenue generated, and the stormwater? There's some argument that maybe sales tax is not that great of a nexus or a correlation, but others argue that when you do commercial development that generates revenue, you're increasing impervious surface. So that's some of the rationale behind the sales tax. When you think in terms of cost recovery and what's fair or equitable, if you're looking at tax exempt entities, the largest impervious areas are school districts and MCC and our churches. With a sales tax or property tax, they would not be paying into that system. So is that fair? Do we want to pursue that? But then those organizations under user fee have the opportunity to pursue credits, whether through education partnerships, through reducing runoff on site, through certain types of low impact development. And then the idea of resilience. How will this revenue source keep up with over time? Will sales tax continue to grow as the economy grows? Fortunately, here in Lee Summit, our sales taxes have been fairly stable, and as our as our community has grown, it has grown with that. When we look at the user fee, there's concern when we get into does it require a vote or not, and we're not really going to get into that discussion tonight. I think it's more of a policy decision, but again, like Columbia, Missouri, the example they had is they put it to a public vote, and then after 15 years it was woefully underfunded, so they had to go back for another vote to increase the user fee. So you look at that, does it have really the chance to grow? It should grow as impervious area increases as we continue to develop. The other thing that a user charge will capture would be large parcels of undeveloped land. An example being like all the PRI property. It does generate runoff that goes into the system. If you have a user charge, then they would be paying into that system. Sales tax, probably not. Property tax, probably so. Then property tax, again, is there really a connection to stormwater? Well, generally, if your assessed valuation goes up, you probably have a more developed land, so that could be an argument for it. How does the revenue keep up? Well, as the assessed valuation grows, the revenue should grow with that. But then every time you address that from a top property tax standpoint, if you're looking at having to change the formula to increase revenue, we'd have to go back for a vote. Okay, so kind of thinking in terms of this idea of fairness, what this is trying to show is if you look on the far left side, I'll go in the middle because percentage numbers are easier. 86% of the parcels are residential, is what that is showing. And then the non-residential is only 5%. But if you look on the right, the impervious area, that 5% is generated almost a third of the runoff. So again, that's getting to this commercial, church, school districts that are getting into that. And then that includes things like city-owned property. The term they use were like civic parcels is what that kind of gets into. So that's where this user fee concept became very popular at one point in time, and these are some of the arguments that we get into when we talk about the use of a tax. Okay, so property tax funding, kind of looking at this, okay, we're looking at that 22, I think 22 cent levy increase. That's $160 per year for a median home of $350,000. That would generate about $6.2 million net, because in that 6.4 million revenue. There's some reduction for the handling or fee that we get charged by Jackson County. And this assumes that 2% of the bills are not paid. And so this is, you'll see this is another issue with the user fee, is that percentage of bills, not paid. I mean, there's different estimates on that. But this is, this is a fairly safe source. And again, even if this is included, the user fee is included on the tax bill, that's only getting billed once a year. And then if people don't pay, well then, we have the ability, to either, liens on the property or things like that. So that would affect their future, sale value or contribution. So that's kind of the big summary for this. Again, the cash flow is we receive that revenue annually. It's very stable, being on the property tax. It grows as our assessed valuation grows, as inflation and new development will add to that assessed valuation. But again, the tax exempt entities don't contribute. Okay, so this is kind of the illustration. This is the kind of the, for how we calculate this. Finance put this together for me, where it's basically they look at our assessed valuation and they go like where we're at, and then what do we need to generate that $6.2 million. And so that's where we come up with that $160 per year down here. And you'll see that's the number that we get, if you rate that monthly. And again, that's for the median home value. This does not affect commercial, commercial properties would obviously be more. Okay, so looking at sales tax. So I mentioned the park and stormwater sales tax. State statute allows a half cent for this. Currently, we're at a quarter cent, which Parks is using. So there's that quarter cent available. Parks is, in our communication with Parks, they want to reserve a 1/8 for future capital or O&M. So we'd be looking at 1/8 of a cent. And the reason I'm looking at these existing tax sources is because the city has a statutory cap on how much sales tax we can assess. So if we went with an additional quarter cent, I think our limit now is we still have a half cent to play with. And so if we did that, we would take up part of that ability to go out for future sales tax. So, so in previous conversations, we were trying to steer away from a new sales tax if we were going this route. That 1/8 of a cent, that 1/8 would generate 3.1 million. Now that's about half of what we're looking for. If we go with a quarter cent sales tax, that would get us to about this, the $6.2 to $7 million range. It's a half a cent is currently available. There I say it, before our statutory limit. Again, that reduces our flexibility in the future. Now, some of the conversations we've had internally is we currently have the half-cent CIP sales tax that is generating about $14 million per year with the sales and use tax. It expires in 2032. There's the possibility of restructuring that slightly, where maybe we take 1/8 of that and put it to stormwater, do the 8 cent, parks and storm tax, and then we leave 3/8 for transportation. And that would still leave us about $10 or $11 million per year, in current dollars for transportation projects. And some of the thought process behind that is when we look at transportation, a lot of our capital improvement projects, a lot of the road improvements we have are pretty well going to be done. These major projects like the Ward roads, the Pryor roads, and things like that, Coleman roads, they'll be finished by the end of this, sales tax issue. Now, and then as we go through, update the thoroughfare master plan, which is due in the next year or two, that will identify future road projects, so we have a good feel for that. And we would consider, there might be some consideration when we finish this projects originally presented on this. We know we're going to have some savings because of the grant monies that we've received over this period of time. It's going to be fairly significant as far as, last time we did this for in 2017, we had about $20 million in savings in that original 2007 sales tax program. So we may be looking at that. If we get our project completed, maybe we consider going back before 2032, before it expires, to renew it. And the consideration would be make that permanent, because that way we could use that for that and stormwater along with the parks tax. So that's where I talk about like a blended scenario. Now, the advantage of a sales tax is it's very easy to collect and administer. We don't have that administrative overhead cost like we would have with a user fee. So the systems are already in place. Again, it's subject to economic activity, market conditions, and so that last bullet, there is that potential for a no tax increase option if we go this route. So speaking from my perspective, the ease of administration is very attractive, because when we start getting into billing systems, I wasn't going to ask Mr. Thorne to come up and discuss that, but in the conversation we have him and Brent Boyce in water, billing systems are very troublesome to, I guess, put it nicely, I guess. Okay, looking at the cost recovery on an impervious area. Again, this is probably the most fair. This is the most equitable. This is where basically, if you're contributing stormwater to the system, you're pretty well paying your fair share. And so this is kind of illustrating how we came up with the impervious area. Is our consultant digitized all the impervious areas. So we looked at structures here in the red. The yellow or the green is pavements or decks. And you see here, then we get to the commercial where you have the building, the parking areas. And then we look at when we get into like larger areas like medical complexes, schools, and things of that nature. So you can kind of see how these large commercial areas have a significant contribution. So again, this is a very reasonable approximation. Now, if we adopt this system, it'll take from the time we have approval to go forward with the user fee, it takes about 2 years to go live and start collecting the fee, because we'll have to update, we have to update the impervious areas, we have to get all of the billing, all the customers put into the billing system. We have to develop credits, programs, policies. Do we want to allow exemptions, credits, some sort of public oversight, because this would require like the water utilities has a water utilities advisory board. We would need something similar for the stormwater. It requires continual update and administrative support with GIS mapping and billing. And understanding this is new and it's different in this area, it would require an extensive public education and public involvement to understand this process and system. Okay, so how do we come up with that rate in the billing unit? Basically, we figured out, as we looked at before, we figured out, okay, what is our annual need, or estimated expense, which is the 6.2 million. And when we went through we established a billing unit, which is basically 500 square feet of impervious area. And so within the city, we estimated we have 38,000 billing units. So that comes to $118 per month per 500 square feet. And so that's that billing unit, that's that rate. And so then that's applied. So then if we look at it, if you look at the residential, you're looking at, that's the annual charges, if it's, we're seeing a very small home here. This is what we're talking about, the median here, that 3,500 square foot. We're close to that $100 to $120 a month as far as that. And then when we get into larger buildings and surfaces, you can see that rate will go up. So that's kind of, again, we're kind of seeing that estimate where it could easily be close to $1,000 for a commercial or industrial site. Okay, so this is a tabular version of it, and again, these are based in 2023 dollars when this was put together, and I say 2029, we're kind of inflating out. So you get this annual charge, and so you can kind of see how that goes up based on that. Okay, so looking at the two different billing systems I mentioned, annual versus monthly. So on the left side is some of the monthly, the right side is annual. And so you can see there's a difference in the estimated cost to administer these. A little over $150,000 for the monthly. When you look at uncollected revenue, now this is, if you see at the bottom, we're assuming on the monthly billing system it's 5% is uncollected, whereas the property tax is 2%. And I believe in some verbal conversations I have with water utilities, they can actually run much higher than 5%. And then you get into the, who sets the rates and fees. Either way, we as the city set that rate and fee. How fees are adjusted, we think it's going to be a public vote. Again, that's the more conservative approach. But there's also the argument that, this is a user fee, therefore it's a utility. Who impervious areas, it's determined by the city. Reviewing user charges and appeals, again, would be the city, and the billing accounts would be maintained by the city. And we're kind of emphasizing that city piece because I understand there's, probably some concerns if we have Jackson County do the annual billing for us. We know there's concerns there, but we would still control that, the process of that. So when we get into issues and concerns, well, when we get on the monthly billing, if we're billing it like with a water bill, okay, what's our shut-off policy for non-payment? Water utilities is not going to go shut off a water meter because they're not paying the stormwater tax or the stormwater fee. Then you look at, well, if they make partial payment, what if they, then who gets the money? How do you split the money out in that bill if it comes in that way? We're not really set up to do a consolidated municipal billing system because really the only monthly billing we have is through our water department. Then the other thing we run into is that with Lee Summit, with our water department, they have accounts that are outside the city limits. So now you have bills that have a outside the city limit that should not have that stormwater fee attached to it. Then we also have accounts within the city that are like District 13 or other water districts. So they don't get a water bill from the city. So now you have to bill these people the stormwater side that are not in the billing system already. So again, if we're looking at that, just kind of at the bottom, I just kind of correlated to where if between the two different systems, the monthly versus annual, you're seeing, we could replace more corrugated metal pipe or, conduct a few larger projects if we were going to look at it monthly versus annual. Okay, so this is kind of getting to the next steps. So I'm going to skip ahead. Okay, so this is kind of the end of my presentation. And this is kind of where we're looking at, where we want to see next. I mean, if we want to do a deeper dive into one or two of these options here, is like one definitely off the table. I know initially the first discussion seemed like the property tax option was pretty well off the table, and I don't know if that's still the direction. And so we could kind of come back and kind of do a deeper dive into that. Like if you're, we can expand on that eye chart I had in the front with all the detailed stuff. We could expand on some of these billing comparisons, things of that nature, if that's something you're looking for. So that's kind of where I'm looking at, doing more, and so anyway, so I guess at this time I'll open it up to questions.
Thank you. Any questions? Councilmember Carlisle?
Thank you. So my first question, for the user fee, and if we were to put it through our water billing cycles. So I see, and I've heard everything you've said, but on our water bills, we have like water use and then we have like sewer, right? And it's broken down. So wouldn't this just be like a third line item of stormwater?
Yes, it would be another line item.
Okay, so how many people do we have that don't pay the sewer? Only pay the water?
That I don't know. Do you have any? I'll turn to Mr. Thorne on that first.
I mean, I'm just thinking, like, is it feasible to think they're gonna deduct that amount from their utility bill? I mean, I'm not doubting you, it's just a question I have, because like, I don't look at the line items and go, oh, not paying this part, and then just send in a partial payment, right?
Jeff Thorne, Director of Water Utilities. Good question. The answer to that is zero, because if they don't pay their sewer bill, we'll shut them off.
Okay.
That said, first, look at this presentation. We've talked a little offline. I do have some concerns with running it through here. In the end, it'll be the water bill. That's what they call it. They'll just say it's the water bill. I got my water bill and it went up $13 a month. All right, much like parks with their 8-cent sales tax, we have a ceiling. There's going to be a point in time where that's kind of going to be it. Everything we take out of what we can do for replacement of sewer and water through this method, which is the only method we have, becomes gone when we add something else to the water bill, because it will just be observed as the water bill, because not everybody looks at every line item. My bill went up. Well, what part of your bill went up? Did you look at your usage? No, it just went up. So there's some concern there for me. And then we do get some partial payments. It's not they didn't pay one line item, they just didn't pay the whole thing. Their bill was $100 and they sent in $50. All right, well, how does that get spread now? Where does that go? So there is some of that.
Okay. Okay, and then, for the accounts that you have that are outside Lee Summit, why?
Oh, sorry.
Hey, stay here,
Still
sir.
me, my bad. We have accounts outside of Lee Summit because we manage a water district in District 14.
Okay.
That was District 14. It's been dissolved. It's Lee Summit Water, goes all the way out to Highway 7. So we've got areas of the county that we serve water into.
Okay.
We do not serve sewer anywhere that is not Lee Summit by city ordinance, but we do have water service outside the city limits.
Okay. And then users inside of Lee Summit that don't have water?
Yeah, we have users inside of Lee Summit that don't have water, and inside of Lee Summit that don't have sewer. Now, they do get a bill from us. The billing that we get for the customers that are served by District 13, including the park out off Blackwell and all that, that's all District 13 out that direction. And so they send us meter reads and we bill them on volume, just like we would anybody else, but we have to ask for the meter reads and that kind of stuff in areas where, so they should be receiving
Okay, so the
a
users
sewer
are
bill.
inside city limits of Lee Summit, but they don't use
City
City of
water.
Lee Summit water.
Yeah, they
Okay,
use
I was like,
District 13
who doesn't have water?
No, they
Like,
have-
come on,
well,
everybody
now-
has water.
No, that's not true either.
Okay.
We've got some houses without public water at them inside the city limits, and they buy water at the bulk water sale at Ransom.
Oh, okay. But they have sewer, right?
Those don't, no.
God, please tell me they do.
No. They have septic, sewer system. It's just not public.
Yeah, okay. All right. Okay, so you would prefer that we don't do that. I was really thinking that's the easiest.
That's what I was too.
You know, just add another line item to the water bill and,
There's some stuff there that it's a lot like, we've got a parks and stormwater sales tax. It makes sense to do that, but if you use it up, then future consideration. We will get pushback on this. We intend to continue with our rates. We have replacement and that needs that are continuing.
well, and water's not getting any cheaper. I mean, I think people
Nope.
understand
Our
eventually.
our suppliers charge more each year, every bit of things we use, just like everything else, whether it's fuel in your car or chemical that we use to treat for odor and that kind of stuff, it all goes up, and we have to be able to match that. If we put an external, not water and sewer thing on a bill that people are gonna see as water no matter what we do to it,
Right.
it puts more of a cap on what we can charge, and I've got some concerns that way is what I'll say.
I understand that. Okay. So the overhead administration, that's because you would have to figure out who, well, it wouldn't only be for water, right? Because it would have to go through a few departments. Is that why it's so much overhead?
This overhead is strictly for stormwater. So as new homes are built, we have to digitize those in GIS and add that impervious area to the system. And then we have to create accounts for all of that. And then as property owners change, that's probably one of the biggest challenges in the maintenance is when properties are sold, then we have to, update the billing system within that. People do additions or new development on a property or expand. Again, we're having to go back and remeasure those impervious areas. So it's basically keeping that impervious area database is a big portion of it. And then just the whole, keeping the whole billing system up to date is a major effort as well.
Okay.
Yeah, we issue 40,000 bills a month. So every time anything changes on any of those is going to be a piece of work that we will have to do on our side inside our customer information system. So there will be a piece of that everything we add to it becomes.
Right, but
More
it's,
to
I
do.
mean, it's just like
Yeah,
if
it's just
somebody were to buy or sell a home,
You
it
bet.
stays with the property, not with the owner.
Yeah.
Great, okay. Okay, let me think about those for a while. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Rader?
Thank you, Chair. Okay, so we probably think we're going to get the most amount of pushback with utilities. Is that what we're saying from the public?
It's probably the least understood.
Yeah.
Of the systems.
And it could be a billing nightmare.
Property, just I guess my hunch or feeling is probably, and you probably get a feel talking to your residents, property tax always gets a big pushback.
So I was going to say, I don't think property tax right now is probably the best course of action. I think we can agree with that. But as I think about it, my thoughts are sales tax might be our best course of action. I know we're limited on what we can do, but everybody pays sales tax. Everybody that comes into the city pays sales tax. So even people maybe don't use some of our resources here, well, unless they use the toilet. But, so that, to me, it seems like might be our best road to travel down. Now, we have to have voter approval, right?
Yes.
On the
we
sales
would-
tax.
Yeah, we would need voter approval on that.
And we'd have to structure it so we'd still have a little cushy in there for something in the future. But I had a kind of as I was sitting here listening to your presentation, George, I thought of something. I remember that you came before, I don't even think I was on Planning Commission yet, with stormwater some years back. And I believe the cost was maybe $3 million. Something like that back then. It's been 7 years, anyway, 5 to 7 years. Okay, so I had kind of a question. If we had passed that stormwater back then, we would have been 5 years ahead of where we are today, and it would still be expensive today, but we probably would have gotten a lot more projects done when it was seemingly cheaper then. So I guess my comment is just, we need to do it, because if we don't get busy on this, it's just going to keep going up and up and up, and in the meantime, things deteriorate. So, and I know we know that, but I was thinking about that, and it's important that we get this done.
I think this may be something we can discuss next time we talk about this timeline to go live. That may be something to discuss, because I think if we were just internal conversations, and I'm sorry, I'm scrolling back here. Okay, like on this sales tax, I know one of the things is, we talk about, we might suggest possibly using this existing sales tax. Well, one of the things that, we've done and this council been more open to is the idea of bond issues for transportation. So if we're looking at dedicated stormwater funding for the ongoing operations and maintenance and things of that nature, if we have, it doesn't, it still gives us the funding for transportation-related projects, but if we're looking at going forward, because like our last transportation, the bond issue, I mean, the transportation had like I think a 78% yes vote on that, and that's fortunately we've had a very good track record if we're able to show projects and show good projects, something very easy to understand and something that the community feels is a need. We've been successful going down that road. I know there's some risk that people may say no on a bond issue, but again, these have been the no tax increase bond issues we've been talking about. So there is that is available if we're looking at this option on the sales tax, so that we're not shorting ourselves on the transportation side.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks.
No, I was just going to say, after listening to all these, I personally would prefer the sales tax. I think it just hits a little softer. Property tax, no way. So I think on the sales tax, so I think it's just key, kind of like what you were just describing, but we have to just educate the public on what they're going to get out of it and understand the importance of it. So I think if we can do that strong enough, I think we shouldn't have a problem. But yeah, so I mean, I guess how many do we currently have in place, I guess is my question. I know we have sales tax for public safety and the parks tax.
Yeah, so we have a half-cent capital improvement sales tax. I think that's what George is referring to, that sunsets in 2032. But nothing prohibits us from going out with an early renewal if we want to, and that way it's not perceived as a new tax. Assuming we can meet all of our commitments that we had taken to the voters in 2017. There's the public safety sales tax. There's also a half-cent permanent transportation sales tax that pays for most of our maintenance programs for roads, like your overlay, your curb replacement, your slurry and crack seal, those sort of things that we have in our capital improvement plan. And then there's the quarter-cent, I believe it's a quarter-cent parks sales tax.
Okay, so is that for?
I think we also have a 1% general sales tax.
And then there's, yes, a 1% general.
Okay, so is it pretty normal for cities to, because I guess you said, if I'm understanding it right, that if we implement this one, it will leave just what, was it a half cent left that we could do something else?
Currently,
So
currently, we have a half a cent available to the city.
Oh, currently, okay, that's what you're saying.
So
Okay, so we
this,
leave a 1/8.
this scenario we're talking about is if we do it with a no tax increase on the sales tax side, we still have that half cent available as a city.
Okay, and is that pretty typical? I mean, cities around us, they're doing quite a few of these.
Yes, and I might refer to Mr. Dunning, but I still believe our sales tax is fairly low. It's not the tops in our region for sure. And what Mr. Binger is referring to is that we still have a half cent above where you add up all of our sales taxes, that we still have that half cent capacity to go out and add another new half cent sales tax. There's also, you can categorize sales taxes into special sales taxes where they don't, I guess, count towards that statutory limit. So that would be another option too, if we found ourselves in a difficult situation and needing to raise additional revenues.
Okay, yeah, no, I'm all in on this one as far as the three options that we've got. I think that would be the most successful one, I think, to the community, again, with good education. But I would like to see if that, when this gets presented more, just like if we could see the list of where we sit, if we added this in the tax compared to other communities, just out of curiosity.
I'm thinking when we come back next month and we do that deeper dive, we can go through the sales tax, we can show what we have, where we're at, and I think before I'd have to look it up. I think we did a comparison with other communities. I can come back in with like a comparison of what other communities in Missouri have done on the stormwater side of things. And then also kind of map out some sort of a timeline, because I mentioned that if the utility fee or the user fee, it's a 2-year go live to get the system up and running and ready before we issue the first bill. That's what we mean by go live. Whereas the sales tax, again, okay, let's say we want to vote on it in, 1 year or 2 years or whatever, we're still kind of on that same timeline. And then, we've also discussed internally, like when we have these sales taxes that expire, sometimes we like to go back a little early just in case we need a second chance.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so this isn't something that we want to implement by like April.
Well, we're talking about the election in April. That's what I'm saying, is we would map out this timeline to see, okay, this is when we could go.
So it doesn't have to take a year or two. We could,
Correct.
if we go this route, we could put it potentially on the
Yes.
April election. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Is this something, if it goes on the ballot and it doesn't pass, which I think it probably would, but if it doesn't, could we pivot the plan and then potentially add it as a utility onto the stormwater or onto the bill?
Yeah, there's a number of options. It could pass and you see a complete change, and maybe it's the economy and it's woefully underfunded, and you could still come back to one of these other alternatives. You could also, if it fails, you could try again. You could go out with additional public education, try to reframe it. Maybe you do a little different combination instead maybe of an eighth and an eighth. Maybe it's a half cent total and you split it different. There's a lot of options. Certainly failure doesn't mean you stop if it doesn't proceed. But
Okay, good. Thank you. Any additional questions? Councilmember Carlisle?
Thank you, sorry. So, okay, so if we want to go out for sales tax, we would be adding more to it or splitting the baby different?
well, I think that's maybe where Mr. Binger was suggesting we take a little deeper dive into that conversation next month, knowing that I think you've eliminated property tax as a consideration. You'd like more information on sales tax to kind of confirm that's the direction you want to go, if I'm reading your dialogue best. What we would need to do is lay out then that timeline, as well as we understood you want to see the bigger picture of what is our total sales tax if it were to pass. But for us to lay out in a timeline, what would it look like for us to feel like we've met the commitments under the current tax? How early could we bring forward a new tax? Maybe there's other concepts where we say, let's go get an 1/8 cent passed and we'll roll back an 1/8 cent off the current tax. There's a lot of ways we could propose something there so that you're assured to get the commitments fulfilled under the current tax that's in place. I think one of the key elements, though, is that it would have to be permanent. You're going to start to pay for operation and maintenance. And then we got to figure out what is the right split so that you can still continue those other transportation improvements if you're going to share that with the stormwater and parks tax.
Yeah, that's my questioning is I don't know that sharing, I mean, I understand that we will be set to have completed everything we told the public we were going to complete, but I mean, as we grow, we have more and more transportation issues and we have less and less funding from state and possibly federal. So really we need those tax dollars for stuff like that. So one thing when you come back, I would just really like to see, what if we were just to make a stormwater tax? What would that look like? So that way it could just be dedicated to that. I mean, because we have so many streams and lakes and what have you in our community, and the longer this goes, the worse those are going to get. So, I mean, I really feel like time is of the essence. We really need to get this going, and then look and see, what is our go live, and it's awful that it's like looking at 2 years, but I mean, we got to get it going somewhere, so.
And I think that could be one of the sales tax scenarios, if that's what we're starting to develop out, maybe your 8 cent under the currently authorized stormwater and parks tax, and then a new 8 cent. So you're only taking off an 8 cent to complete your entire budget picture, which is that targeted $6.2 million.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Any other questions? It's a great presentation. I went into this thinking that I was for it being on the water bill, but now I'm leaning towards sales tax, so I'm excited to hear more. I guess that takes us to Roundtable. I do have one question. Okay, so when the water was tasting really terrible, Councilmember Hodges and Councilmember Funk, they didn't taste that terrible water. But is that because they part of the Water District 13?
Not aware of where they live, so I can't totally speak to that.
Yeah, District 4. So over.
Some of District 4 is and some of District 4 isn't. I will say folks tasted different things in different spots. I think there was a little placebo effect. I think there was a lot of things going on that way, but it depends even within our own city limits on what percentage of the water from Kansas City you got, because of where the water comes into our city at. The folks in the north part of the city get a lot of Independence water. Our big connection Independence is up there. If you're in the southwest part of the city, you're fed mostly out of South Terminal Pump Station, which is off the Jackson Cass Main, which comes directly from Kansas City into our system. So those tanks at Hook and Shear get a lot of Kansas City water year-round. It mixes in differently. There's nothing separating it in our system per se, but it just where it is pumped from and what towers it most easily hydraulically goes to. So it varies. So yeah, it's potential that it never tasted bad to them, or it's potential they just never thought it tasted bad.
My water really was bad. It was not a placebo effect. It was terrible.
It is.
But it's better now.
All right.
So that is good. So yeah, maybe you weren't going crazy. Maybe you just really didn't have bad water. I just thought you just couldn't taste. Anything else for Roundtable? Staff?
I have nothing.
All right, then I guess we'll adjourn the meeting as of 5:30.
Thank you.
Thank you.